All right, hello, we are back. And I think this might be, I don't actually know how long the true ending is, so I guess I could be lying here, but this might be our last Chaos Child stream, which is not great because I don't have anything lined up, but um, we'll see how it goes. So, we finished Noel's route last, let's see, that was Thursday. So we finished her route and basically found out that we were fucking right through like most of it. We had guessed the whole Senni Minami Sawa thing, so I'm still very proud of us. So let's go to the recap. We interrogated Nono about her secrets directly, but she just asked us to trust her. Serika returned to reveal Nono's secrets, and Nono tried to fight her, but Serika revealed that Senni's wish to be Nono during the earthquake that killed the real Nono allowed her to duplicate and take her place. Serika left after ruining Senni's lie, and Senni tried to cast doubt on Serika's trustworthiness, so we pretended to believe Nono for the time being. Shinjo showed us the autopsy report that Nono convinced everyone was for Senni's corpse, which does not match the DNA of Senni's parents, but does match the real Nono's parents. We lashed out at her for all the lies and secrets, and she left the apartment. The game switched to Senni's self-loathing perspective of the experiments in her childhood, when her father suddenly changed and everything up to meeting and becoming Nono. Kawahara beat us up again over Nono, and we taunted him about how his hatred of Senni screwed him over. Then Serika arrived to answer our self-loathing by killing us, but Senni saved us in her true form. We fought Serika to save Senni, and Serika allowed herself to die when we accepted that a future with Senni is what we want most. Senni tried to leave, but we accepted her as our family and convinced her to stay. So yeah, we actually did get a really happy ending, kind of, ignoring the fact that, like, everyone died. But whatever, it's okay. So, let's find out what the true ending is. All right, Chaos Child. Sometimes I have these dreams. Sometimes I have them on the night after I get a bad test grade, or when I have a fight with a friend. Anytime I'm not feeling well and when I sleep, I have these dreams. And I only remember the dreams when I'm asleep. When I wake up, I don't remember anything about them. The dreams are strange that way. I'm very curious because the Japanese title for this was like very roughly translated, the real way she was created. So I don't know exactly what we're about to go with, but I'm so excited. In the dreams, I'm a murderer. The first people I killed were the parents of my childhood friend. I killed them because he wanted me to do it. In his heart, he was happy. So I was too. But the murders didn't stop there. I kept killing people in secret after that. Why, you ask? Because I needed to continue the game that the boy longed for in his heart. I'd leave hints and small contradictions at the murder scene so that he could slowly track down who I was. The boy loved the game, and when I saw how happy it made me happy too. In the dreams, there was a man helping me with the murders. It was the doctor who ran the dorm where he stayed. I didn't like the doctor. He wasn't normal. Every time he appeared in my dreams, he'd suggest a cruel, horrible way of killing someone. Yeah, our imaginary friend was always a serial killer because that's literally what we wanted her to be. Like, Serika got the worst deal out of all of this, man. Um, but he would laugh and smile and always say the same thing. Your boy wouldn't enjoy anything less. Very well then. If that's what it would take for the boy to enjoy it, that's what I would have to do. The man and I killed many people in the dreams, in the worst ways imaginable. In my dreams, I was psychic, and I knew exactly what the man was trying to do to the boy. He was planning something awful. But I knew the boy wouldn't lose to the man. The boy I loved was very, very strong. He was my hero. Oh, come to think of it, there was another man in my dreams, sometimes. It was a man I knew well.
Normally, he was a lazy, easygoing man, the kind you could never imagine doing something wrong. The committee is willing to let this play out, provided you don't interfere with us. We're interested to see what happens to him. He was part of some organization called the committee, the kind of thing you'd see on TV shows about urban legends. He said he was watching me and the boy at all times. Even for a dream, that seemed like a little too much, I said, and almost laughed. By the way, how are you getting along with your everyday life? You wouldn't want to slip up and have someone find out who you are, right? After he told me that, I realized something. In the dreams, for some reason, I didn't have a home. He found me the home of a girl who lived by herself. I killed her, and I had my place to live. And each time he appeared in my dream, he would tell me about the strangest things. D-swords, gigalomaniacs, the truth about the new generation madness, the murders that had occurred in Shibuya before the earthquake, the artificial gigalomaniac generator device, and Chaos Child Syndrome and the sumo stickers. The other me, who was watching the me in the dreams, would always look down in confusion. Why was I having these dreams? Sure, whenever there was a program on TV about urban legends, I'd watch it. But it was just a small hobby of mine. It wasn't something that should be showing up in my dreams. One day, he was scolding me like I was at school. Sending him into the hospital basement was going a little too far, you know? Now I had to move all the things that we were keeping down there. I don't like trouble, you know. Okay, so now we know why everything left the basement. Yeah, that's a really good question. If Setika's perspective considers the real world a dream, what is her idea of the reality outside of her dreams? I really hope it's something nice. Or I wonder if it's like compartmentalizing, like everything, like the game is her dream, and then everything else is reality. I don't know. It was some kind of lab filled with all kinds of machines. I was surprised to find something like this in the basement of a place I knew so well. Oh, no, that's not right. This was a dream. Impossible things happened all the time in dreams. Sorry, as a middle manager type, I have to tell you these things. Anyway, just keep him on a tighter leash, all right? If you do, I won't do anything. You just need to be a little more careful, okay? These strange dreams kept happening, but when I woke up, I didn't remember anything. Just when I was thinking of going to a doctor about all this, I had that dream. It was the most realistic dream I'd ever had. November 4th. It was so realistic, I even knew the date. I was in a panic. She had found my secret. You were the one who was using Senimi Namisawa, weren't you? I don't want to hear that from you, Nono Kurese. I'd screwed up and let her find out who I was. How could I have known she'd find me out because of the cell phone strap he'd given me as a present? I quickly ripped off the strap and threw it away. It made me sad, but I didn't have a choice. I hadn't intended to kill her. Her death would be too much of a shock for him. He might quit playing my game. I'd have to kill her without him finding out, and then come up with something. I drew my D-sword and tried to kill her. Huh? And then I saw something in my dream. He and she might have a future like this. Ah! Huh? I was distracted and missed her vitals. I swung the sword again, but then... Kuresu! Onoe! Takuru? Huh? It was him. He knew now. I couldn't talk my way out of this. No. No, no, no! Run! Run. That was what she said just before she collapsed. Of course, she was talking to him, but I was the one who ran instead. I think that's where it all started, where the me and the dream started to go wrong. And then the dream ended. Stop it, Taka. He was holding his D-sword high and looking down at me, and I was begging him not to do something. Don't take my reason for living from me. I've read lots of mine since I was created. Everyone's always worried, and no one ever knows what to do. I can't believe they live like that. How can they smile? They don't know why they're doing it. I I don't want to be normal. For the first time in my life, I cried for real. No, you're going to be a normal girl. No, please, please, let me help you forever. This is it. Goodbye. Taka! Until the last second, I was gazing at the face of the boy I loved. I would never forget it. February 11th, 2016, Thursday. Hmm. I woke up feeling something on my cheek. I put my hand up to it and felt tears. What dream was I having that made me so sad? Or were they tears of joy? I wasn't even sure. But whenever I had the dream, I would cry. It made my eyes all puffy and red. Maybe that's just how my body works? Or maybe I needed to have a doctor look at me after all. But I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't even remember what the dreams were about. I stretched out on the bed to try and feel better. The light coming through the curtains was bright. The weather outside seemed to be very good. Today was February 11th. It was National Foundation Day, and school was closed. But I was supposed to go out and meet a friend, so I had to get up and get ready fast. Hmm? I? Hello? Serika, where are you? Home. Huh? Huh? You haven't left yet? I moved the phone away from my ear and checked the time. It was 10 minutes before we were supposed to meet. The shopping mall where we were supposed to meet was a 20-minute walk away. Oh no. I realized that I didn't remember setting my alarm the night before. And I didn't have a bike. I'm sorry. I'll leave right now. Oh, it's fine. We can just meet at the station. Does that work? Huh? It's fine, but we're not going to the usual place? Ayaka suddenly got some free time, and she says she wants to go to Shibuya. What? My heart pounded loudly. Hmm? Is that a problem? It's fine. Okay. I talked fast to cover up my panic. I told her I'd be there as soon as I could and hung up. I wasn't supposed to go to Shibuya. That's what they'd told me. They didn't tell me why, but it had something to do with the traffic accident I was in 3 months ago. Well, even without the accident, I really didn't feel like going to Shibuya that much. Yokohama had a lot of places that were just as fancy and fashionable, and going all the way to a crowded town like that on my day off was just exhausting. I didn't like big crowds anyway. When I saw a lot of people at once, my head would start to ache, and I'd feel something strange in my chest. Was that just another thing my body did? Well, it's fine. My friends had been nice enough to invite me, and it was my guardian's fault for not telling me why I shouldn't go to Shibuya anyway. They lived in Shibuya, so if I saw them there, I'd tell them that. I leapt out of bed and began to get ready.
I have a feeling this is about to go terribly wrong.
Well,
The contents of my stomach flowed down the drain and disappeared. When you felt like you had to vomit, throwing up was the best way to feel better. That was not a vomit sound, and I don't know whether I regret that or not. I mean, apparently Serika technically has legal guardians. I don't know who they are, but
the crepes I'd just eaten were gone now, though. You okay? Aoi was rubbing my back. I raised my hand to show I was fine. Oh, that 1,800 yen I spent was a lot of money. I'd seen a group of college kids having fun and suddenly felt like I needed to vomit. Does this have to do with that sickness in your head you were talking about? Uh, I don't know. 3 months ago, on November 6th in Shibuya, it was the day of the Shibuya Restoration Festival. Supposedly, I'd been hit by a car full of people who'd come to see the festival. I say supposedly because I couldn't really remember it. Yeah, probably regret, let's be honest. All I remember was a very bright light. Headlights, maybe? The next thing I knew, I'd woken up in a hospital bed. There were wounds all over my body, particularly my stomach, and I was wrapped up in bandages like a mummy. But what was worse was that it was the effect it had on my memories. I don't think that was a correct sentence, but I remembered my name. I remember how old I was. I remembered my favorite TV shows. I remembered the day of the Shibuya earthquake. I remembered the faces of idols I liked and how to use Flick Input on a smartphone. But what school I went to, where I lived, who my parents were, all of that was gone. I tried to remember, but I couldn't. Instead, sometimes I'd suddenly see images in my mind, like clips from a film. Sometimes it was a collapsed town, or rows and rows of TV screens, or a puddle of blood. But none of them seemed real, and I couldn't imagine why I was seeing them anyway. The doctors told me that maybe I used to like watching movies, and that's where the images came from. Maybe they were right? I didn't know. It's okay, here you go. Ayaka had run to get me a bottle of tea. Thanks. I took it gratefully, rinsed out my mouth, and spit it into the drain again. Ugh, dang it. You know. What is it? Even if you're sick, you need to act more like a girl. It's a waste. Huh? What were they talking about? I felt like someone had told me the same thing before. Yeah, we used to. When I thought about that, the urge to vomit faded away. There we go. And then this guy started taking me to the clock tower and told me that his favorite ice cream was the icing on the cake after a job well done. What should we do? I got the clothes I wanted. Should we go home? No, I'm fine, I'm fine. I felt just fine after that. Sure, it's not just because you had 3 whole crepes. Maybe you're right. Sometimes something would happen, and I'd feel who I used to be before the accident. Like when I'd seen that crepe stand a bit ago. I'd suddenly felt a strong craving for crepes, and I'd ended up eating too many. I hadn't realized I liked sweets that much. Or maybe I just liked crepes. Maybe I'd eaten them on a date with a boy I liked. My face went red. No way. Probably. I wasn't interested in that stuff. And if I had a boyfriend, he would have come to see me when I was in the hospital, probably. Want to go see a movie? Serika, how are you for money? 2 of my precious 1,000 yen bills had just disappeared down the drain along with the crepes. But I didn't have any parents to beg for cash. I get my money for living expenses on the 15th, too. This must have been what a grown-up felt like the day before payday. What should I do? And then, I saw something strange. What's that? Huh? Oh! I always saw what I was looking at and frowned. Serika, you've never seen one before? I nodded. Maybe the old me had seen one, but I couldn't remember. You've at least heard of it, right? Chaos Child Syndrome? That's it? There were these strange-looking people walking around. No, it wasn't that they looked strange. The clothes they were wearing didn't match their appearance. There was a weird, unbalanced feeling to them. I couldn't stop staring. But the people around them were obviously used to them, so they didn't seem to mind. I heard that young people who had something bad happen to them during the earthquake got that condition, right? Aoi nodded. How come nobody's bothered by it? They are, but it's not their fault. It's just a disease, and... Aoi looked up at the big TV screen on the side of the building. She was looking below the TV at the marquee used for news and messages. There was a message there. Chaos Child Syndrome is a treatable illness. It is not dangerous and it is not communicable. Harassment of patients is a violation of their human rights and is forbidden by law. Let us strive for an equal society free of discrimination. I'd never seen anything like that before. Of course, I knew about the syndrome. This only happens in Shibuya.
Oh, I added when she saw I was still staring at the announcement.
This town's kind of weird. There's lots of rumors about it. Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Sometimes the syndrome patients go missing, right? Like they're doing experiments on them? Experiments? You read too much manga. Anyway, you've really never heard of this? No, I haven't. I see. You don't really read the news online, do you?
She was right. I was never really interested, and I didn't even have internet at home. According to Ayaka, everyone else had internet these days, but maybe that was just how it worked.
Anyway, if you don't have any money, want to go take a peek?
Ayaka flashed a mischievous grin.
At what? At the place they keep the patients. I know where it is. What? No way. I'd rather go see a movie. I'll pay for Serika's ticket.
The three of us talked for a while, and Ayaka won out. Oh, I'm so nervous. What is going to happen? Poor Serika. Yeah, I've heard about the street gang that threatens you for littering.
I didn't like the idea of having a friend pay for me. And for some reason, I wanted to go there. Just a little, okay? I don't want them getting mad at us. So where is it anyway? It's really close. It's called Hekiho Academy. It was a few minutes' walk from the station.
It sure didn't look like a place for sick people. It looked just like a normal school.
There was a plate on the entrance that read Hekiho Academy. I could see the patients coming in and out of the building. Some were laughing and joking around, while others were alone and playing with their smartphones. They really did look like normal students. So that explained it. They were all wearing this school's uniform. But why? That uniform didn't fit their appearances at all. It actually made them stand out more. They say they actually think they're going to school. What? They don't know what kind of place this is. How is that possible?
That didn't make sense. How could they not know?
They had to know what people were saying about them if they looked on TV. I wonder what they see. Just as I went to take a look inside.
Oh shit.
Huh? Serika? I felt a sharp pain in my head and collapsed. I felt my mind starting to fade away, and then everything went black. Yeah. So, I'll stay home tomorrow. Sorry about today. Yeah, I'll get some rest. Thanks, bye. I ended the call with Aoi and fell into the bed. I'd only passed out for a few minutes. I woke up and the two of them walked me home. My head still hurt. It was a strange pain. How to describe it? It wasn't a real headache. It was like the center of my head felt heavy. Ugh. What happened to me that afternoon? I suddenly saw a vision of something in my mind. It had happened before, but this time it was different, more powerful. Like I'd gone inside the vision. I could even smell it. Does this maybe... Did it have something to do with before I'd lost my memories? Did I know Hekiho Academy? That facility in Shibuya? I took out my phone and looked at my address book. There were 22 names on the list. The only one on the list who wasn't a friend was my guardian. I started to call them and stopped. They'd told me not to go to Shibuya. I couldn't explain what had happened today. Maybe I should just tell her about the vision I'd seen? I wonder if she knows anything. When I'd woken up in the hospital after the accident, I didn't have anything to identify myself. No matter what the doctors asked me, I couldn't answer. And then she came. She said she was a distant relative of mine and that she would be my guardian. She was the one who told me about the accident. I was an only child, she said. I lived in a prefecture far away from Tokyo. In the fall of my second year in high school, my parents had both died in an accident. I was all alone. And then this person, my distant relative, had taken me in. For financial reasons, I wasn't able to go to the private school I'd been attending before, and instead transferred to a cheaper school run by a man she knew. But the day before I was supposed to start, I'd gone to the Restoration Festival. I'd gone to Shibuya for the first time in my life, and been shocked at the number of people there. I'd been so flustered that I was swallowed up by the crowd and pushed onto the street. And then a car had come by. And then I'd woken up in a hospital bed. My stomach was badly hurt, and I'd forgotten everything. The day I left the hospital, I asked her a question. Can I go back to my old house? I meant the house where I'd lived with my parents. If I went back there, I might remember something. But she told me I couldn't. Someone else owned it now, she said. She said they'd tell me the reason why when I was older, and she hadn't told me yet. She worked in Shibuya and wasn't able to leave, so I lived alone, here, in this apartment in Yokohama. The first time I'd fallen asleep in this room after leaving the hospital, I'd woken up in tears, and then I'd made a decision. I didn't have time for crying. I needed to live the best life I could, for my parents' sake as well as mine. Was I ready? Was I okay? I was okay. And then I threw away the past. Or so I thought. But that facility called Hekiho Academy and all those Chaos Child Syndrome patients seemed like they were going to make me remember. Stay away from Shibuya, all right? She told me that so many times. Maybe it was because she didn't want me seeing Hekiho Academy and the people who went there. Wow. It was like there was something I wasn't supposed to remember. No way. This wasn't a thriller or something. Chaos Child Syndrome. A specific condition that appeared in certain victims of the Shibuya earthquake. Thought to be a psychogenetic mental disorder. It seems to be a form of schizotypical disorder, a condition where the patient does not recognize that they have a disorder. The originator of the name is unknown. It's said to have come from both a psychologist and from one of the patients. The name appears to have come from the fact that all patients with this disorder were young children at the time of the Shibuya earthquake, and the complexity of the circumstances surrounding the quake and their symptoms. That is believed to be the origin of the name Chaos Child Syndrome. I couldn't stop thinking about the syndrome, so I spent the whole night looking it up on my phone. I didn't understand over half of what I read. Just reading it gave me a headache. And it was all is believed to be or is said to be. It was like no one really knew anything for sure. Eventually, I turned up a page that said mental disorders are neither real illnesses or fictional myths, but somewhere between the two. I didn't know what that meant, so I just gave up. It also looked like a lot of other people besides me were looking into it too. Some people were coming up with weird conspiracy theories, and others were saying that the very idea of explaining it scientifically was nonsense. I realized as I read that I kept seeing the same name again and again. Takure Miyashiro. Was that it?
Maybe we have a really good data plan. Yeah, we didn't have internet, but I don't know.
He was the boy behind the serial killings in Shibuya. He was just 18 years old, only a year older than me. I'd lost my memories from before the accident and didn't really know what awful things he'd done. I tried to look him up, but when they'd given me the phone, they'd put a filter on it. I couldn't read much of anything about Takure Miyashiro. That only made me want to know more. Maybe that was what I was like from before the accident. My personality didn't seem to have changed much. Well, unless you take an interest and look into it yourself, information doesn't do you any good. Huh? I felt like someone had told me that often before. Who was it? Well, it didn't matter. Aoi's phone didn't have any filtering on it. I was able to find out about Takure Miyashiro right away. It was shocking. It was hard to imagine that someone my age could have done this. He'd killed his own younger sister, and he'd worked together with an accomplice to stuff her body in boxes. Then he'd tried to kill his older sister and failed. His older sister was still in a coma, they said. I couldn't believe it. I felt disgusted with this Miyashiro person. How could he do that? But at the same time, I wondered. I'd learned that he'd gone to Hekio Academy before he'd been caught. They'd told me not to go to Shibuya, and they'd put filtering on my phone to stop me from looking up Miyashiro.
Quite honestly, why these people clearly do not know how teenagers work, because if you tell a teenager not to do something or not to look something up, they will immediately do it. Like, the fact that she spent 3 whole months not going to Shibuya is a miracle.
Which meant that maybe there was something there. Something they didn't want me to know. I didn't know what it could be, but it just didn't feel right. Right! I slapped myself a few times on the cheeks to help me focus. I just wanted to know the answers. So I pretended to be sick to get out of school and went back to Shibuya. Okay, I was all ready. I said a silent sorry to my friends who were worried about my fake illness and set off for my destination. When I stood at that same spot as yesterday, I could hear the sound of a chime. All the noise the patients were making stopped, and the whole facility became quiet. Is it maybe class time? The place seemed just like the high school I went to. Ayaka had said that the people here thought that they were going to school. What should I do? I'd come to the same spot as yesterday, but I didn't see any visions like I had last time. I didn't want to pass out again, but I'd had my hopes up a little. That maybe I would see something else, and that maybe it would be a clue to the old me. I took out my phone and checked the time. If it was the same as a normal school, they should still be doing morning classes. I just heard the chime, so it was probably third period. Should I go inside? If I acted like I belonged there, maybe they wouldn't. No, that wouldn't work. It would be one thing if I was wearing the school's uniform, but in my street clothes, they'd spot me immediately. Is something wrong? Uh, wow, not good. I'd been staring at the school for so long, they thought I was suspicious. I smiled at the guard as he came up to me. No, nothing. Oh, you. I haven't seen you in a while. Where have you been? Oh, and where's your uniform? Huh? It's against the rules, but, well, I'll let it slide. Get in quick. Hurry and you can make it in time for third period class. And then he let me right into the school. Huh? What was he talking about? Uniform? He hadn't seen me for a while? He knew me. I didn't understand. I was standing in shock at the middle of the courtyard. Huh? What's wrong? I could tell the guard was getting concerned. If I didn't do something, he'd get suspicious. I mean, security sucks, but also, like, he did see her for at least 2 years, because I think that she was a second year at Hekiho. So, like, he did recognize her and had no reason to think that she wouldn't be in school. Mm, oh, just go with it. I didn't know what was going on, but just standing here was only going to make him more suspicious. I started to walk towards the school building. I finally made it to the entrance. I hadn't realized it, but my breathing was starting to quicken. I looked around, desperately searching my memories. But I'd never been here before. Probably. Yet, for some reason, I recognized the smell. It was the smell of the school building. It felt much more like home than my high school in Yokohama. No, that was impossible. I was imagining it. All schools smelled the same. Huh? And then suddenly I saw a vision in my mind. Just like yesterday. My heart pounded loudly. I was sure I'd never been here before, but I still felt a sense of deja vu. I remembered what the guard had said. He hadn't seen me for a while. Where was my uniform? Go inside, quick. Did I go here before the accident? Did that mean I was a student? No, a patient? But I didn't have chaos child syndrome. I opened up the shoebox for guests and put my shoes inside. I decided not to wear slippers. It was possible I'd need to run out. I headed up the stairs to the third floor. The farther in I got, the stronger the sensation of déjà vu. I felt sick. No, I felt uncomfortable. It was like watching a movie I'd seen when I was a kid. I didn't remember the story or the ending. I couldn't think of the title or the protagonist's face, but I knew I'd seen all the scenes before. I could faintly hear what sounded like a teacher's voice coming from one of the classrooms. I just kept walking through the movie, and for some reason, I stopped. This is like this is like a horror movie when the monster is like walking through and someone decides to hide in a locker or something. Like, oh god, I'm so tense. What was I doing on the third floor? I was in front of a second year classroom. Why had I stopped here? Why had I come straight up here in the first place? It was a very strange feeling. I could hear a teacher's voice from within, holding class. Suddenly, I got scared. The air felt heavy, like it was threatening to crush me. My heartbeat sounded very loud. My hand went for the door as if pulled by an unseen force. More déjà vu. I knew how this door felt to the touch. I remembered. I wasn't imagining it.
Exactly, except for we're the serial killer. Like, ah.
I suddenly heard a voice from within. A voice I remembered well. It was a voice I remembered well, but one that made me want to cry.
No, don't open it. Don't open the door, Onoe.
Why can't I open it? Why? By the time I'd finished the thought, the door had slowly opened. Huh? I froze.
The fuck? All the eyes were upon me.
They were looking at me after I'd suddenly walked into their classroom. My eyes locked with all of theirs. The old woman closest to me smiled. Her wrinkly lips shone with lip gloss that didn't fit her apparent age at all. Welcome back.
Ah!
All of the hairs on my body stood on end, and I shot out of there like a bullet. I ran down the hallway. I kept running. What was that? What the heck was that? I'd seen yesterday what Chaos Child Syndrome was. But still, this didn't make sense. Why doesn't anybody realize? With all those patients there, how could nobody realize? How could none of them realize that this wasn't a school? This place was weird. It was definitely weird. They all wore normal uniforms and took normal classes. What was the point of making all of them live normal human lives? No, I was never a part of this. I had to be imagining it. My chest started to burn and I stopped running. But I still couldn't stop myself from walking as fast as I could. And then I realized again. Again. Again! Stop it! Why had I come up the stairs? If I wanted to run, I needed to go down. I could see the building next to me from the window. I must have gone up about 2 flights of stairs. I looked behind me. Nobody was chasing after me. No one was making a fuss. I was safe. I saw another vision in my head. I felt dizzy. I staggered over to the wall to stop from falling over. It was the same as yesterday. I saw a vision of something I was sure I'd never seen before and started to pass out. Why am I... Huh? I happened to see a certain clubroom. Of course, which club it was I didn't know. I'd never been here before. But I knew. This room was special to me. I moved away from the wall and slowly went towards the door. Huh? I heard a sound from within the room. Was someone in there?
Hana? Is that Hana? Like banging on the wall?
while she plays her game? Hey, stop it! Do something about her, Vice President. Again? Stop it, jeez. Look, you're all scratched up. Give me the first aid kit, okay? Huh? Wait, I'm checking the source for this news site. Hurry up! Okay. The voices I heard made my chest ache and burn. For some reason, I started to cry and my vision blurred. I hadn't heard any of these voices before, but I remembered them. At some point, I'd put my hand on the door. I slowly opened it. Huh? There was no one inside. I'd heard the voices until I opened it. Huh? I slowly closed the door and went inside. I ran my finger along the desk and looked at the things in the rest of the room. There was no one here. Of course not. No one was here. Yeah, welcome back, traitor. The room was a mess. There were piles of papers, books, and DVDs everywhere, and cardboard boxes stacked on top of each other. A newspaper club? There were several scrapbooks on the shelf, and all of them said Hekiho Academy Newspaper Club Article Archive on the front. Oh, this is it. I was sure of it. This is what I'd seen a moment ago. A map. I touched the map on the corkboard. In the center was Shibuya Station. So this was a map of Shibuya. There were photographs and newspaper articles pinned to it, along with memos that were probably made by the club's members. But the stuff on the board made me feel sick. There were pictures of bodies and things. And wait, wasn't this that case from Shibuya? I didn't remember it, but this was the return of the New Generation madness that had taken place in Shibuya before the Restoration Festival. The map was a summary of the case. Why do I know this? I carefully searched the map for any clues to my past. Huh? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I found a photograph pinned up away from the others. It was of me. I was smiling. And I was wearing the school's uniform. It was the same uniform the old people, the patients, had been wearing. And the person smiling next to me was... Who are you? I heard myself whisper. I wasn't asking the question to someone I'd never met before. I'd known this person from somewhere. Who was this old woman with the kind smile? Tell me, who are you? I realized I was yelling. Whether I was yelling at myself or at her, I didn't know. By the time the sun had almost set, I had finally made my decision. Okay. I knew the place from the business card I'd been given before. There was no point in just thinking about it. I wanted answers. And at this rate, it was making me feel sick. I pulled up a map of Shibuya on my phone and started walking. So you came, huh? Your next deposit for living expenses isn't for 3 days, you know? Momose, my guardian, didn't scold me for breaking my promise. She sighed, sounding slightly exasperated. I'd been scared she'd get mad, so I was a little relieved. No, I know that. That's not why I'm here. Well, come inside. Coffee okay? Yes. It had been a while since I'd seen her, but part of me didn't really know how to deal with this woman. She was normally so relaxed, but she could suddenly get scary. There was a strength about her that you couldn't resist, maybe. If she told you to do something, you did it. Excuse me, I said as I timidly entered her office. Inside, it was a normal office. I craned my neck to look around. Her business card said, Trustworthiness Investigation Company. That meant she was a detective, I knew that much. From what I'd seen on TV, I thought detective offices were supposed to be messier. So I was surprised to see just how normal it looked. Here. Thanks. I took a sip from the coffee she offered me. Come to think of it, I hadn't had anything to eat since I'd run out of Hekiho Academy this afternoon. I hadn't felt like eating at all. So, I told you to stay away from Shibuya, didn't I? Ugh, she had. I tried to focus. I needed to get answers today. I'm sorry, but there was something I needed to know. I told her as much as I could about everything that had happened since yesterday. Momose listened quietly, occasionally sipping from her coffee. She didn't bat an eye, even when I told her how I'd collapsed or snuck into Hekiho. I got a little mad as I started to talk. Momose knew something about my past, and whatever it was, it had something to do with Chaos Child Syndrome and Hekiho Academy. Otherwise, she never would have told me not to come to Shibuya. I took something out of my pocket, like a detective confronting a suspect with crucial evidence. Momose's expression changed, and it wasn't what I thought it would be. Did she just chuckle? Why? This is me, right? It has to be. I pointed to myself in the picture. I felt bad about it, but I'd borrowed the photograph from that room. Who is this that's next to me? And why am I wearing that facility's uniform? I thought you'd said I'd never been to Shibuya before the day of the Restoration Festival, right? The guard at Hekiho had known who I was. And I'd felt that sense of deja vu when walking through the halls. It was my first time there, but my body had moved on its own. And then there was what they'd said to me in that second-year classroom. Welcome back. Did I go there? What do you think? Huh? How did it feel when you went? Did it feel like you'd been to Hekiho Academy before? I wasn't sure. I don't know, but it doesn't feel right. There's no way I could have been there before. I'd never heard the name Hekiho Academy, and I didn't even know that it was a facility for Chaos Child Syndrome patients. But when I was there, it felt like I'd forgotten something. In the photograph, I was wearing my uniform and smiling. The old woman next to me must have been a friend. I was friends with someone with Chaos Child Syndrome, and I was wearing the uniform. Did that mean that I was also... Did I have Chaos Child Syndrome? Is that how I lost my memories? That's incorrect. Momose had told me I was wrong. No one has recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome yet. At least, not as far as the public knows. As far as the public knows? Momose got out a pen and started to write something down on a notepad. Before I give this to you, I want to make sure of something. You're sure you want answers, right? She was testing me. But of course I wanted answers. I wanted to know about my past and the memories I'd lost. Yes, I want to know about myself. Of course, you want to know about yourself. The paper had an address and a name on it. Sorry, but I can't tell you anything myself. In fact, I'm not even supposed to be telling you that I can't tell you anything. But, well, they'll just have to forgive me for this. Huh? Just go there and ask your questions. That's how you can start. Huh. It felt like she hadn't told me anything like usual, but I had no choice but to go there. I gulped down the rest of my coffee, which had gone totally cold, and stood up. Oh, right. How are you doing living by yourself? Momose chased after me once I'd left the building. I'm doing all right, I guess. Don't use too much money, okay? The crepes I'd eaten yesterday flashed through my mind. I split my allowance and living expenses. Oh my, how grown up of you. Did you make friends? I thought of Aoi and Ayaka. Yeah. I see. Then you're having a good time, right? Yes, I am. I'm glad to hear that. If she was happy, then why did her eyes seem a little sad? All right, take care. Maybe we'll meet again someday. That was a strange way to say goodbye. What did that mean? But everything she said always sounded kind of ominous. There was no point in thinking about it. Yeah, see you. I left Frisia, and by late afternoon I'd arrived at my destination. Isn't this place... The address on the memo sheet was for a hospital in Yoyogi. A.H. Tokyo General Hospital. I thought I'd heard the name before when I'd seen the memo, but it was only when I actually saw the building that I remembered. About 3 months ago, the police had run a search here. Everyone had been talking about it, to the point where even I knew about it, even though I didn't watch the news. They'd been committing all kinds of medical malpractice, which they hadn't reported at all, and they'd been making illegal donations to politicians for years to cover it up. Something like that. And they were linked with some weird cult, and instead of treatment, sometimes they'd make patients undergo weird rituals. Ew. This place is scary. I hope I'll be okay. I was pretty sure I'd heard that all the managers and doctors involved had been arrested, and any ties with the cult had been severed. It was supposedly a completely new hospital now, but still. Aw, it'll be just fine. Just go. I spoke loudly to cheer myself up and went inside. Most of the hospital must have been closed for the weekend because the lobby was almost empty. But visiting hours hadn't ended yet, and no one stopped me as I walked through the halls. Come to think of it, the paper I was given only had a name. I didn't know if it belonged to a doctor, a patient, or maybe even a nurse. Excuse me. I spoke to a nurse at the nurse's station. Yes, what can I do for you? Does this person work here? I showed her the name on the memo. The nurse nodded. I'm sorry, oh, my name is Onoe. Are you a friend of Kunosato's? Um, well, oh, I know, Momose. Tell her Momose sent me and she'll understand. The nurse nodded again and reached for the phone on the desk. She spoke on the phone with someone for a moment. Because Kunosato is going to be so thrilled to see us. Yeah. I have the strangest urge to watch a guy wet himself here and then shove his friend into a cadaver. I apologize for the wait. She says she'll see you. Go to the psych ward on the 5th floor. The psych ward? Yes, it's normally off limits, so be careful. You'll see a door once you're out of the elevator. Press the intercom button in the side, and the nurse there will show you in. All right, thank you. I headed for the elevator like the nurse said. Oh, excuse me. Yes? The nurse glanced around to see if anyone was listening and leaned towards me. She was whispering. Is it your first time meeting Kunosato? Yes. Be careful. She can be a little difficult. I narrowed my eyebrows a little. For some reason, the nurse said, Good luck. I went up to the 5th floor and pressed the button to call the nurse, who let me into the psych ward. I was told to go to the first door down the hall. Wait, I was going to a hospital room? I was sure she worked for the hospital. Maybe she's a patient? There was a plate for patient names in front of the room, but it didn't say Kunosato. It was blank. I knocked timidly. It's open. A gruff voice answered. Huh? Did I know that voice? What are you doing? If you're going to come inside, then come inside. Right. Excuse me. I remembered what the nurse had just said. She really did seem difficult. Or scary, more like. I fidgeted a little as I opened the door. Oh. The reason I thought I'd heard that voice before was that I had actually met her several times. Sometimes she'd come to visit me with Momose when I was in the hospital after my accident. I hadn't asked her name. I guess it was Kunosato then. Kunosato was sitting at her laptop, typing at an incredible speed. She didn't even look at me. Why did you come here? I'm sorry? You were told not to come to Shibuya. This isn't Shibuya, it's Yoyogi. Then how did you know I was here? You went to Momose's place and found out from her, right? She's figured me out. Momose's company is in Shibuya, which means you went to Shibuya. See? I don't like idiots who can't listen to warnings. Remember that. I now knew exactly why the nurse had wished me good luck. Oops. I spoke loudly to keep up with the sound of fingers hitting keys. I came here because there's something I want to know. It's about my memories.
Ugh, she was deliberately hitting the keys hard. I wouldn't lose, though.
Here.
I put the photograph I brought in front of her face, and she refused to look away from the screen.
Meh. I found this in the newspaper club room at Hekiho Academy. If you know something about it, please tell me. You went there? Yeah.
It was only after she turned to look at me that I realized, under her white lab coat, she was wearing a Heikyo Academy uniform, the same as in the picture. Oh, she's absolutely typing nonsense to look busy. Like, there is no way that she's not just being difficult right now.
Hey. Huh?
Kunosato suddenly stood up and got close enough to my face that we almost touched.
Do you know what that place is? Um, uh, what did you see? What did you do? I didn't do anything.
I quickly drew back from her. She was scary. I could almost hear the sound of my own heart racing.
Are you also a student? I mean, a patient there? What? Because that.
I pointed at her uniform.
Tell me, did I go there before? Tell me anything you know, no matter how small. Anything that could give me a clue to my memories. I want to know no matter what.
Kunosato kept looking at me. She seemed annoyed. It was like she was trying to feel out what was in my heart.
What did Momose say? Huh? I'm sure you asked her the same question. What did she say? That she couldn't tell me anything herself. Oh, and that she probably couldn't even tell me that she couldn't tell me anything. I see. Not just like her, the sly old bat. Oh, I think you're right.
I found myself agreeing. Sly. That was the perfect word for her.
You want to know, huh? About your past? Yes.
Kunosato shrugged a little.
Just so we're clear, I don't know anything about you. Huh? The first day I met you was the day you came to the hospital. Everything before that I heard from Momose. All right. I don't know anything about that photograph either, or why you're wearing that uniform. But you're a patient there, right?
I looked at the uniform she was wearing again. It was the same as the one I had on in the picture.
No, patients at that facility are required to wear uniforms. If I want to move around without arousing suspicion amongst the patients, I need this. Then what are you? A scientist. I study chaos child syndrome. A scientist? Yeah.
She tapped the laptop monitor with her fingers. It was filled with rows of tiny numbers and several images of what looked like human brains.
Did I maybe have some special reason for being there like you did? If I'm wearing that uniform in the photo. No. If nothing else, I don't remember seeing you there. And I can't imagine what special reason there would be. You don't seem to be a scientist like I am.
That answer didn't satisfy me. The guard had acted like he knew who I was, and the woman in the picture had been acting like we were friends.
This person is a patient, aren't they?
I pointed at the photo.
Tell me about her. If you're doing research on them, you should know her, right? I can't just give private information to outsiders. I might not be an outsider, though. Why do you want answers so badly? Of course I want answers. Who wouldn't want to know about themselves? And I think I heard lots of voices in front of the room where this photo was taken. I don't know how to describe it, but it all felt so familiar. If this person was one of the voices, then they must have been a dear friend of mine. Is it wrong to want to know about a dear friend? Ugh.
She was glaring at me with a really scary look on her face. Did I go a little too far? But I couldn't help it. It was the truth.
You're a pain in the ass. What? I can see why Momose sent you to me.
She stood up and went to leave the room as if she was finished talking.
Wait!
I quickly tried to stop her.
We're not done. Wait here a little. I'll find out if it's okay to tell you. Huh? Don't touch my computer.
So we're gonna touch the computer, right?
Huh. I thought to myself as I was alone in the room. Maybe she does have friends. I was kept waiting for about an hour. Just when I was starting to think that she was making me wait deliberately, she came back into the room. She told me to follow her and to promise that I wouldn't tell anyone what I was about to see. The fact that you snuck into Hekiho already worked in your favor. If she's going to do that on her own, it's better to just tell her, they said. The person in charge of the research? Well, they're certainly in charge. Huh? Kunosato went deeper into the building and then stopped. Here. She turned around to face me as she put her hand on the door. Oh, wait. I want you to promise me something before you go inside. Of course, you'll tell no one what you saw in here. But also? Right. Once you see the people inside and accept things, that this time you'll stay away from Shibuya. Huh? That's my condition for telling you what you want to know. Wait, what do you... You'll know when you see them. Kunosato opened the door without waiting for my answer. I was struck dumb when I saw what was in the room. The only light came from the fluorescent lamps overhead. I could smell the peculiar scent of disinfectant. There were 4 beds, each with a patient on them. All of them were old women. Their bodies were hooked up to machines like the ones you saw on TV shows that went beep, beep, in time with the rhythm of their hearts. This way. Oh. Kunosato called to me from the bed that was furthest back. I got close and gasped. It was her. It was the girl in the photograph with me. Nono Kurisu, age 18. A Chaos Child Syndrome patient. She's been in a coma for 3 months. Huh? She's 18? A coma? 3 months? Unlike the other 3, when she was brought here, she had a terrible wound on her abdomen. What? She was hurt? Yeah. It got hairy a few times, but we managed to save her. For some reason, Konosato was frowning as she looked at me. Huh? Well, anyway, now you understand, right? There's no way to ask her what her relationship to you was. She pointed to the woman on the bed as if to say, satisfied? A coma? Because of the syndrome? That's right. And the others? I looked at the other beds. Each of them had a name written above their pillow. Hinae Arimura, Hanakazuki, Uki Yamazoe. Yeah, was all she said. They're going to get better, right? I don't know. The girl on the bed, Kurisu, was as still as a doll. Without the sound of the heart monitor, I doubt I would have known she was alive. It really did feel like I knew her. Maybe. What had our relationship been like before the accident? Had we been friends at Hekiho Academy? Why am I... It felt like I could almost remember, but I couldn't. Nono Kurisu, Hanakazuki, Hinae Arimura, Uki Yamazoe. They were all names I was hearing for the first time, but it didn't feel that way. It was so frustrating not being able to remember. If they've been in a coma for 3 months, that means it started at the same time as the festival, right? And that was when I'd lost my memories. Yeah, friends, rivals, kinds of lovers, etc. Was that a coincidence? Why did they all end up in a coma? That's private medical information. Why do you care? I want to ask her about my past myself. This isn't an illness that an amateur can treat. You don't know that! But Kunosato wasn't listening. She just kept insisting that I leave and never go back to Shibuya. All right, I'll go back to Hekio tomorrow. What? Kunosato raised her eyebrows. If I can't talk to Kurisu, my only option is Hekiho. The guard there acted like he knew me. Like hell you will. Kunosato angrily drew closer to me and I stepped back. Just try it. I'll have Momose cut off your living expenses. What? That would be bad. No, I wouldn't give up. I, I'll get a part-time job. It'll be fine. I see. You've got guts. But in this country, it's hard to get a real job without a guardian. And your guardian is also Momose. Mm, that one worked. If she wouldn't let me get a job, I couldn't survive. That's awful. Why are you so... Just heed the warning you were given. At least give me a reason that I can accept. Why did she want to keep it a secret so badly? I didn't think I was asking for anything weird. It's got nothing to do with your memories. Hekiho Academy is in a delicate position right now. Kunosato ran an aggravated hand through her hair and showed me what was on the laptop she'd brought. The screen showed a picture of a man. Huh? I'd seen him before, too. But where? I couldn't remember. Suichi Wakui. The patients think he's just a normal teacher, but he's not. He's one of the people in charge of the Hekiho facility. He used to be a researcher working on Chaos Child Syndrome. After the festival, he took all the data we had on the syndrome and vanished. Theft of patient information is a serious problem. The whole school was in an uproar. But he was particularly nasty. He used his position as administrator to make the school his private property. I can't tell you the details, but because of him, Hekiho Academy is in a position where anything could happen. So I'm telling you to stay away from it. Hey, are you listening? Huh? Oh, right. I couldn't take my eyes off the man in the picture. What was this? I knew him from somewhere. Oh. My eyes met with Konosato just as the scene flashed through my mind. Her look of annoyance had vanished, and she was dead serious. Do you remember this man? Huh? Do you know where you met him? I tried to remember the image I'd just seen. It was probably... Well, I can't say for sure, but why would I know that place? I could hear Konosato whisper as I tried to think. She remembers the location of the device? Was the memory alteration imperfect? Huh? What did you say? No, it's nothing you need to worry about. Just tell me where you saw him. It was important. Sure, okay. But in exchange, I have a request. And then I explained the idea I just had to her. I left the patient room and was taken even deeper into the hospital. I was told I'll need to get permission from above, and I'll have to negotiate, and kept waiting several more hours. It was probably night outside now. The further into the hospital I went, the colder the air became. It felt like something terrifying was waiting for me. Where are we going? To fulfill my end of the bargain. You need to meet another patient. Huh? Was what I said that difficult? I hadn't even thought it would be. Shinjo... Kunosato took me down the hallway to an area marked Staff Only No Entry. A man in a suit was waiting for us. His eyes went wide with surprise when he saw me. What are you thinking? You can't do this! I'll explain inside. Kunosato brushed past him. Onoe? Huh? This is Detective Shinjo with the Shibuya Police. He's helping us with our research into Chaos Child Syndrome. A detective helping study a disease? Was that a thing that happened? I bowed, confused. Shinjo, how long until the guards change shifts? You have some time, but he's gonna be mad. I'm sure. Anyway, come with me. This is important for you to hear. Kunosato went further down the hallway. I followed. It felt like something scary was getting closer. Is someone there? You'll know when you go inside. You at least watch the news, right? The news? Is he famous? Yeah, I'm sure Kunosato told you this, but you'll need to keep what you learn here a secret. You can't tell anyone about him, or that you met him, or even that this place exists. Got it? Yes, sir. What kind of famous person could it be if they needed all this secrecy? The two of them stopped in front of a certain door. There was a no visitor sign on the door, and the small window was barred. Only a faint light came from within. The detective took out something. It was a key. The door locked from the outside. There was a tension building between the two of them. I started to feel nervous, too. Onoe? Yes? How much do you know about the return of the New Generation Madness? The return of the New Generation Madness? I knew about it. I heard what they said about it on TV, I guess. It was a spree of serial killings in Shibuya, right? What do you know about the killer? It was a boy a year older than me. What was his name? Mia something? Miyazawa? Miyashiro. Takure Miyashiro. Oh, yeah. Something like that. When I'd borrowed Ayaka's phone to look up Chaos Child Syndrome, I'd seen his name a few times on news sites and blogs. At first, I'd wondered why he was showing up in my search results, but when I read them, I found out that he had Chaos Child Syndrome too. By the time Ayaka and Aoi had told me not to look, it was too late. I'd already seen photos of the crime scenes. They were awful. Just remembering them made me feel anger and hatred towards the killer. I can't believe that someone only a year older than me could do something like that. Maybe he'd wanted to be famous. Maybe that's why. And one of the victims was his own sister, they said. I couldn't believe it. Do you know what happened to Miyashiro after the case? Huh? I don't know. But he was arrested, right? They didn't put him on trial or something? For some reason, Kunosato glanced at the door. So did Shinjo. I suddenly felt cold ice pressed to the back of my neck. No way. It couldn't be. Was he inside? No one has ever recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome. At least, as far as the public knows. Miyashiro suffered from Chaos Child Syndrome when he committed the murders, but after he was arrested, we learned that he was recovering. He's presently the only person to recover from the disease, so he's been kept specially quarantined here to help us find a cure. Not that the public knows anything about it, Kunosato added. It was cold, but I still felt an awful sweat. The killer was working with Kunosato? And the police were in on it too? Well, why do I have to meet someone like that? No, I'm scared. I don't want to meet him. Who knows what he'll do to me? Don't worry. He won't do anything to you. I'm sure of it. Kunosato wasn't listening to me. Shinjo used the key and the door slowly opened. Well, we look like we're awake. I saw him immediately in the dark room. He was sitting on the bed looking at me. He wasn't handcuffed and he wasn't bound at all. I took a small step back. He was thin and wasting away, like a dead tree branch. It was hard to believe he'd committed those murders. Had he just recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome? His face was like an 18-year-old boy's, but his bony limbs and neck still looked like they belonged to an old man. This is Takure Miyashiro? The killer behind the return of the New Generation Madness? Shinjo, Kunosato, this wasn't the deal. I found myself hiding behind Kunosato's back when he spoke. The kind of killer who could do something like that had to be a very scary man. My hand was shaking as I held onto Kunosato's white lab coat. What are you doing? Why would you bring someone here who has nothing to do with this? I could tell from his voice that he was angry. I shrank back to try and hide from him. The situation changed. This is Serika Onoe. It seems she knows about Heikiho Academy. She remembers being alone with Waku in a certain place, she says. Huh? Both he and Shinjo gasped in surprise. He stood up from the bed and walked over to me. I got scared and clung to Kunosato tighter. No, that can't be. That's right. She probably means the facility that disappeared from the basement of this building. What Shinjo's been looking for without success is probably there. And Serika Onoe remembers where it is. See, I'm starting to wonder whether we're actually the true culprit. Like, there's something here that's not adding up. I don't know, man. I don't know if we're about to hit a twist or what, but There's a speed bump coming. Is that true? The detective grabbed me and pulled me close. I was yanked away from Kunosato. Where? Where did you meet him? Huh? It was... I almost answered but managed to stop myself in time. I could hear Kunosato groan. That was close. I wasn't supposed to tell them yet. Onoe? She wants to make a trade. What? What do you mean? She says she'll tell us where the facility is, and in exchange, she wants to help us find the cause of Chaos Child Syndrome. Miyashiro was looking at me with narrowed eyes again. Onoe, was it? Huh? Can I ask you something? It was scary when he stared at me, but I worked up my courage and looked back at the killer. What? Why do you want to get involved? I don't think there's anything an amateur could do that would help. Well, tell the detective where the facility is and go back to your normal, happy life. I didn't think a person like him would understand how I felt. He was the kind of person who'd kill his own family. But if I didn't say anything, it would feel like I was letting him beat me. So I decided to say what I was thinking. My voice started to fill with emotion until finally I was practically shouting in his face. Is it wrong to want to save someone who might be my friend? Not that you would know anything about that, though, I bet. Yeah, I don't know, like, is everyone here on the con? But also, the fact that, like, we're seeing the Chaos Child Syndrome patients as, like, old people. What is going on? There's something weird going on. He didn't say anything back. He just listened to me silently. And then when I was done, he smiled a little. What? How can he smile like that? Miyashiro, I'm giving you the final decision here. Shinjo, that's okay, right? I guess I don't have a choice. Thank you. Huh? I looked at Kunosato and the detective in surprise. They were going to let a murderer decide what to do with me? That didn't make any sense. But it's a fact that without Onoe's information, we're not going to get anywhere. If we can find that facility, we can complete the image. I know. Kunosato, Shinjo, can you leave me alone with her for a while? Huh? That shocked me even more. No, no way! Who knew what he'd do? Do what you want. Just for a little, okay? Wait a second, no! I grabbed Kunosato's lab coat, but she knocked my hand away. And then the detective, of all people, was the first to leave the room. All he said was an irresponsible, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." And then he shut the door and locked it too. I was trapped in here. I was too scared to turn around and face the bed. Whether I'd meant it or not, I'd been really mean to him. What if he attacked me? I took a glance over my shoulder. Takuru Miyashiro, was still there. Can I sit down? I get tired if I stand up for too long. Do what you want. Yeah, remember to use protection, you two. Miyashiro took a deep breath and sat on the bed. He rubbed his knees as if he was feeling for something. There was no strength in him, and sitting down he looked even smaller. He didn't look like he was going to attack me. A little relieved, I turned to face him. I'm not going to do anything. I just wanted to hear the rest of what you had to say. You said you wanted to save a girl who might be your friend, right? That's right. So what? Is that... Miyashiro stopped rubbing his knees, and then he looked straight at me. Is that what you want to do right now? For some reason, when he asked that question, I found that I couldn't speak for a second. I felt something boiling up deep within my heart. But then I answered him clearly. That's right. That's what I want to do. Is that all? Oh, yeah. For some reason, Miyashiro smiled again. I didn't understand what that smile meant. I see. Hmm? Huh? Then he burst out laughing, and I didn't know what to do. He curled his tiny body up into an even tinier ball as he doubled over laughing. He shook as he tried to stop laughing, but he failed, and a hoarse voice leaked out of his throat. I didn't find it funny at all. What's so funny? No, sorry, it's nothing. So, once you save this girl who might be your friend, what are you going to do? I'm going to ask her about me. What I was like, why I was at Hekio Academy. I see. All right, that's a relief. Please help us. Huh? Relieved? What did that mean? This really didn't make any sense at all. Uh, are you sure you can just okay it like that? Yeah, I won't get in the way of what you want to do. Well, as long as you stay out of certain places. Hmm? Certain places? What do you mean? Never mind. Thanks for your help. Miyashiro offered me his hand as he smiled. Did he want me to shake it? No way. I looked away and he stopped smiling and scratched his head. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. He seemed like a normal, awkward boy. It was impossible to believe that he could be a killer. Wait, what am I thinking? My mind flashed back to those images of the case. The blood everywhere, the expressions of pain, the cruelly tortured bodies. The anger I'd almost forgotten came back. Just so we're clear, no matter what your reason was, killing someone's never right. What you did is the worst thing a person can do. The person in front of me had killed his own sister, and then said he'd kill himself, but didn't. Was he scared of dying, even after he had killed other people? Did he care about his own life too much? The people he'd killed had their own lives that they'd cared about too. They'd had lives, friends, and family. The things I was trying so hard to get for myself. Maybe I'd never get them, no matter how hard I tried. And he'd just stolen all of them away from others. I I hate people like you. I didn't know what effect my words had on him. He just sat on the bed and silently looked up, and suddenly smiled again. What? And once more there were tears in his eyes. His tears were so honest and true that I found myself overwhelmed. They fell to the bed without a sound. How long did we stay like that? I had to remind myself that the person in front of me was a serial killer. If I didn't, I felt like I might forget my anger. I couldn't believe myself. It, it's too late for crying and regrets now. Miyashiro kept crying, but he didn't stop smiling. His face looked like a parent watching a child. I don't have any regrets. I don't regret what I did. I'm satisfied. He didn't regret it? After all of those terrible killings? And he was serious, too. It was as if he was crying tears of joy. You scum! I didn't want to keep talking to him anymore. I went to the door and called for Kunosato and the detective. They came inside and looked towards Miyashiro without bothering to see if I was okay. What did you decide? Miyashiro wiped away the tears as he spoke. I've decided to have her help us. You're sure? Yes. The two of them looked at his face as if they saw something painful there. But he kept laughing and crying. She's a little different than what I thought a normal girl would be. But if she wants to help Nono, then let's accept her offer. Nono? Nono was the first name of Kurisu, the woman in the hospital room. Which meant that the two of them were friends? Miyashiro, I just want to ask this once, to be sure. Kunosato's voice was low. She was probably worried I'd hear. You aren't who you used to be. You can't use your power. You know that, right? Yes, I've tried it many times. I can't even see the D-sword anymore. Power? The D-sword? What was he talking about? If things go pear-shaped, you won't be able to rely on your power. You're willing to go ahead with this anyway, right? Yeah, for Nono and the others' sake. And anyway, this isn't like you. Aren't you happy enough just to get any clues about the committee? Miyashiro chuckled and Kunosato frowned and looked away. Shut up. I've never seen someone throw away their power and come back. I'm not sure how to handle you. Are you sure? She asked. Miyashiro nodded. I'm fine. I don't need that power anymore. She was still looking away from him. All right, she whispered. Detective Shinjo's mouth went wide open in shock when he saw that. What? Is there something on my face? No. I've just never seen you so obviously bothered like that. Would you prefer I was like this all the time? Oh, that's a great idea. I bet you could do it, Kunosato. Would you two stop? Um, I think it's a good idea too. The nurse said you were a difficult person. What? Huh? Oh,
I hadn't meant to say that. Kunosato was glaring at me fiercely. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, if Takaru gave up his powers so that we could have a normal life, because we couldn't have a normal life without him having one, maybe? I don't know.
after that, she explained to me the rest of the plan. She was still pissed off the whole time. Finding out about Kuris and the others, all the Chaos Child Syndrome patients, actually involved far more danger than I had imagined. But I wanted my memories and past back no matter what. And that was enough to keep me from getting scared and backing out. I listened to Kunosato talk late into the evening and just barely managed to catch the last train home. The second I fell into bed, I felt an exhaustion coming on that I couldn't fight. And I fell asleep without even changing clothes. So much had happened today. I was sure I would never forget it. What about the old me, though? Did she ever have any amazing experiences like this? Or was her life boring and peaceful? There was a white light in front of me. It was so bright and so hot that I thought I might burn myself. The light was shining down on me. It was the same light as before. It was probably the headlights of the car that struck me. This was part of my memories from the accident. It was too bright for me to see the car. There was just the light shining on me. It felt like I'd yelled something important, maybe. And I'd been crying, but I couldn't remember. It was so frustrating to have fragments of memories, but not the whole. The headlights in my dream eventually grew to blot out everything else. And then I woke up. I put my hand on my cheek. It was wet. I'd been crying. I rubbed my red eyes as hard as I could and stood up. Maybe I could say goodbye to these dreams today. I looked at the clock, and it had only been 3 hours since I'd gone to sleep. I stayed awake until dawn, thinking and doing research. Maybe this suits my personality. I put together everything I'd researched and used it to think. And when I thought, I found out where I had questions and researched them some more. For some strange reason, when I was working, I didn't feel sleepy. I honestly thought about getting a job at Momose's company someday. Or maybe the old me just loved finding things out? Nobody's ever said anything like that, though. Today was Sunday. A normal girl might be getting ready to go shopping with her friends. But I was different.
Oh god, please tell me Serika didn't pick up the stupid right-sider thing.
Just like Konosato had told me 2 days ago, I was about to... Okay, let's go. It was still a little early still, but I quickly got ready and left. Chaos Child Syndrome is a treatable illness. It is not dangerous and it is not communicable. Harassment of patients is a violation of their human rights and is forbidden by law. Let us strive for an equal society free from discrimination. I looked up at the board. It was still displaying the message from yesterday.
There we go. Serika reads Dank Dog Press.
I'd stood a little way from the station entrance and watched the people go by. I quickly found the group I was looking for. Are they going shopping, maybe? There was a group of Chaos Child Syndrome patients walking through the crowd. They were all old women. No, young girls. They were crossing the street, laughing and talking and wearing the same clothes that young people wore. I had no idea what their real age was, but from the way they were talking, they might have been middle school girls. They might have been part of Hekiho Academy's middle school. Oh.
There you go. Serika reads Bad Bitch Press. I love it.
The people around them were ignoring them, probably because they'd seen them a million times before. But a couple of foreigners were staring at them in shock. They even took their phones out and started taking pictures. But the girls showed no signs of noticing and continued their conversation. He was right. I remembered what Miyashiro had told me the other day. We really don't notice. It's more like it doesn't even exist for us. He was telling me about the strange symptoms of Chaos Child Syndrome. From my perspective, all the students at Hekiho looked like normal middle and high school kids. I didn't just see them. Sometimes I would touch them and their skin didn't feel like an old person's at all. But you knew what people were saying about you, right? Not at all. We thought that Chaos Child Syndrome was a type of PTSD caused by the earthquake. PTSD? What did that mean again? It felt like I'd heard it before. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Basically, our memories from the earthquake would cause flashbacks and make us depressed or feel like we had to throw up. That's how Miyashiro and the others were made to understand their symptoms. But the reality was completely different. I know for a fact that I saw videos and images and heard radio stories about Chaos Child Syndrome many times, and I just learned recently that all the victims were Chaos Child patients too. The next thing I knew, the Chaos Child girls had vanished to the other side of the street. They were walking around and living normal lives, just like other people. They could talk to people and look on TV and the internet. But anything about their real appearance, anything that would tell them that they actually had the bodies of very old people, they wouldn't see or hear. It was kind of like they were living in their own wonderful dream. That's how it felt to me. The day after I'd heard what Miyashiro had to say, I'd borrowed Aoi's phone again and done my own research on Chaos Child Syndrome. When I looked at what I saw online in light of what he'd told me, I realized how many people had no idea what they were talking about. It was like they just accepted the superficial things they were told and didn't try to find the truth. They were shutting their eyes and ears to what they didn't want to hear. I also learned that people like that were called wrong-siders. Oh no. Oh god. They were on the wrong side of the information divide. And then there's Nono Kurisu. I'd also learned something important about Nono Kurisu, the girl who might have been my friend. It might have been the clue I needed to learn about my past. It's about time, maybe. I looked at the clock and it was almost time. I headed into the crowd in the direction the little girls had gone and started walking to my destination. I could see the inside of the academy from a distance. There was no one there, not even the guard from the other day. None of the people who thought they were students at the school were there. Detective Shinjo and Kunosato's plan was working so far. I called up an image in my mind. It was the man I'd seen on Kunosato's computer. His name was Shuichi Wakui. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes, in the fragments of my memories, I would see him in a special place. It wasn't a classroom or the club room. It was a mysterious place surrounded by machinery. He was standing there and telling me something. Before the accident, I was meeting with him in private in a secret place in this school. So, where is it? I turned around and found Konosato standing behind me. When did she get here? Could she at least say hello? Where in the school is it? Where the detective and, where is he? They just went inside from the rear gate. I pulled some strings and the school is empty. Once we're inside, we'll be fine. We should get going too. Kunosato started walking. She stood up tall, like always, and walked right into the school. I followed behind her, bent over and trying to be sneaky. When I'd told them 2 days ago about the vision I'd had, when I told them about the place where I'd been meeting Wakui, all 3 of them had gone pale. It was in that room. It was a place in Hekio Academy that wasn't a classroom or club room, where the sun never shone. It was filled with machines I'd never seen before. The man named Wakui was standing there and telling me something. When I'd told them that, Kunosato had put her hand to her forehead and yanked at her hair in frustration. She'd already thoroughly searched Hekio Academy. But I guess I didn't search it thoroughly enough, she said, frustrated. Of course, we had to go search the school again. The question was what to do with Miyashiro. I didn't think he needed to come with us, but evidently he had to go wherever the device was that I'd seen in my vision. Kunosato and Shinjo had been searching for that device this whole time, they'd said. So, where is it? Kunosato asked again as she walked ahead of me. I followed behind her and tried to summon the vision in my head, but I couldn't be sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to walk through the school. When I find it, I'll say so. We don't have a lot of time. I can't have this place emptied out for too long. I know. We walked inside the school building. When we got inside, the 2 of them were standing in a corner. Takuri Miyashiro was really outside. He wasn't wearing handcuffs or anything else. Excuse me, detective? Yes. I thought this yesterday too, but don't you two trust him a little too much? You know he's a serial killer, right? Shouldn't you be a little more careful? Suddenly I felt like an idiot. I was just a teenage girl. Would a detective take advice from me? Oh, yeah, no need to worry about Miyashiro. He's fine. Forget that. Start looking. Forget it? Wasn't it really important? I didn't really understand what was going on. All right, let's go. I looked down the hallway from the entrance as I spoke. I remembered the vision again. It was a very dark spot. It's somewhere in the building that doesn't get any light. Or maybe underground? I started walking, relying only on my hazy memories. I'd start by checking all the hallways. Something might ring a bell. Yeah, we trust you. Why would we have a problem with him? Okay, what does that mean? The others followed after me, staring intently at their surroundings. I was paying close attention too, to see if I remembered anything. Oh, right. I turned back to face Konosato as I walked. There's something I wanted to ask about Nonokurasu. Is that what you should be focusing on right now? She was glaring at me incredibly fiercely, but it was something I needed to know. I didn't back down. Kurisu was injured, right? On the chest? Yeah, that's right. The detective answered instead of Kunosato. I glanced at Miyashiro before I spoke again. I read online that it happened because she got caught up in the murders. Is that true? For some reason, all three of them fell silent. Huh? Miyashiro was the one responsible for the so-called return of the new generation madness. In the end, he hadn't killed himself like he'd said he was going to. It was said he'd chickened out, and he'd surrendered. There were a lot of different rumors about why he'd said he was going to kill himself in public. The most popular one was that he'd failed to recreate the new generation madness. The last new generation madness, 6 years ago, had been composed of 7 murders, but this time there had been only 6. There was supposed to be another on November 4th, but it had failed. And it was Nonokurasu who was supposed to be the target. She was Miyashiro's stepsister. It didn't make the news, but on November 4th, Kurisu had been attacked by someone and been put into a coma. She'd been found in time to save her life, but just like I'd seen in the hospital room, she was still asleep. And of course, the one who was thought to have attacked her was... Well, Miyashiro? I glared at him, but he didn't answer. He just looked back at me, and for some reason, his eyes were sad. I just couldn't understand what this murderer was thinking. So I started telling him what I'd learned. You were in the same orphanage, right? Did you try to kill another sister after you killed the first one? And you were in the newspaper club with her. Your names were on a video that was uploaded. I wasn't sure if I should ask what I really wanted to know. I should have realized yesterday. When Miyashiro had called Kurisu Nono her first name, Kurisu and Miyashiro were close, which meant that since I was Kurisu's friend, he knew me too. Do you know me? No. There was no hesitation in his voice. It was clearer and louder than I'd ever heard him before. That's impossible. I have a photo of me and Kurisu together. I don't know you. Nono and I didn't get along. I don't know who she was friends with. That photo was taken in the newspaper club room. You were the club president. There's no way you wouldn't know. I don't know you. Come on, talk about that later. Hurry. Kunosato suddenly pushed me hard from behind. It was as if she was trying to cut me off for Miyashiro's sake. Both Miyashiro and the detective started walking faster too. It was like they'd decided in advance that this was how they would respond to that question. What's going on? This didn't make sense. It felt like Momose and Konosato were hiding something about my past. And then there was the way that Detective Shinjo acted when he first saw me. And more than anything, there was the way that Miyashiro had cried when he seen me. I could hear myself grinding my teeth. I balled my hands into fists. This was incredibly frustrating. I had so many big hints. And I knew everyone was trying to hide something, but I couldn't remember what it was. Oh, it's absolutely really sad, and it is actually kind of funny. But in my opinion, like the peak humor in it is that we are literally doing what Takaru would have done. So he's still our dad. Not that way. Huh? Miyashiro suddenly spoke in a sharp tone. We all stopped. The sign said that the annex was up ahead. This was where I'd found the newspaper club room. What? We'll go there last once we've checked everywhere else. What's your problem? It doesn't matter where we start, does it? And if we go to the newspaper club room, I might find some hints. You're here to help Nono, right? There were no suspicious rooms around the newspaper club. I'm sure of that. Miyashiro turned around without waiting for my answer. Hey, wait! Wait! I suddenly saw a clear vision in my mind and yelled. That was. What is it? My legs started moving on their own. The memories became clearer along with the vision. The view of the courtyard from the window, the trees and plants. The scene in the window connected with my memories. That's right. Whenever I talked with Wakui in that strange room, I always went through this hallway. Probably. And after going through this hallway, what did I do? Hey, did you remember? Be quiet, please. I can't concentrate. I started to walk following the hazy trail in my memories, and I ended up outside the annex. This was the first floor of the annex. I stood in front of the building's wall. Huh? What was I going to do with the wall? I wasn't sure why, but I did what the memories told me to and put my hand on the wall. What? Oh. I could hear Miyashiro and the detective gasp. Huh? I didn't believe what I was seeing either. My hand had gone through the wall. My hand went straight into the school building as if there was nothing there. I could see the wall, but it didn't exist. I couldn't feel anything against my hand. So that's it. What is this? My mind was shocked and confused, but my body remembered this feeling. I pushed forward and deeper into the wall. The next thing I knew, I was up to my shoulder without resistance. It looked like something out of a cartoon. Huh? Suddenly, I came back to my senses and leapt back. I fell backward onto my butt. When I looked up, the wall was still in front of me. It was impossible to believe that my hand had just gone through it. What's going on? It was my own memories that had brought me here, but I was still stunned. Just like I thought. He used illusion synchro to hide it. No wonder I couldn't find it. Kunosato went up and put her hand against the wall. It disappeared just like mine had. It's like magic when you actually see it up close. I can't believe it. In fact, it's just an illusion. That's right. Can you see inside? I'll take a look. The detective poked his head in. It disappeared into the wall without any resistance. It's too dark to see clearly, but I think there's some stairs. They're going down. So it was right under the newspaper club? It feels like he was making fun of us. The detective took something out of his pocket. It was a small flashlight. If I don't come back after 5 minutes, run. He tossed something at Kunosato, who grabbed it. It looked like a car key. Just don't let anyone see Miyashiro, and remember, the accelerator's on the right. Wait. Huh? Make sure you've got your gun ready. Don't waste time with warning shots. If you see him, shoot him immediately. Listen, Japan isn't like where you came from, you know? But the detective took out his gun and put it in his other hand. It was the first time I'd ever seen one, and I felt a shiver run down my back. I was forced to realize once more that this wasn't a game. Be careful. Yeah. The detective put his hand up against the wall without any hesitation, and then went inside. Miyashiro, you watch that side. Right. The two of them ignored my shock as they stood back to back and watched their surroundings. They didn't seem surprised. In fact, this seemed like a normal, everyday occurrence for them. I forced myself to calm down and stand up and wipe the mud off my clothes. I had goosebumps. Can you explain? What is this? Neither of them looked at me. They just kept watching. What are you trying to do? We need the data in Wakui's lab to get a clue for how to cure Chaos Child Syndrome. I told you that, right? I knew that. They told me 2 days ago. No, I meant I couldn't find the words. Too much had happened, and I wasn't sure what to ask. With nothing else to do, I stood guard as well. It was frustrating just sitting there and waiting for time to pass. I thought it had surely been 5 minutes, but it had been less than one. As I kept looking at the time, you're safe? Yeah, yeah, got it. Kunosato hung up and turned towards me. It's clear. Let's go. Then, just as soon as the words were out of her mouth, she vanished into the wall. Oh, what was I supposed to do? I didn't know what was going on, and I was scared. This is as far as you have to go. Hurry it and get out of the school grounds. Huh? Miyashiro turned back to me and spoke. I'll find a cure for Nono and the others, I promise. Thanks for taking us here. Wait! This is it. Goodbye. Miyashiro smiled and disappeared beyond the wall. When I heard his words, I felt a pain, like someone was squeezing my chest. Huh? What's happened to me? I couldn't run away. I just stood in front of the wall, feeling like I'd lost something important. I knew this feeling from somewhere, but I wasn't sure where. I'd forgotten something important. What was this feeling? Damn it all! I slapped my hands against my cheeks as hard as I could. The old me would have gone beyond the wall. I knew that much. So there was nothing to be afraid of. It was much more important that I remember. I put my hand up against the wall to make sure that there was nothing there one more time and then plunged inside. I went down the long, narrow staircase, holding my hand against the wall. It was dim, but not completely dark. There was a tiny bit of light leaking up from below. Each time I took a step, the memories became more clear. There was no mistaking it. I'd been here before. It wasn't deja vu. Just who was the old me? I'd been a student here at Hekiho, even though I didn't have Chaos Child Syndrome. Maybe I was a scientist like Kunosato? And that's why I was talking to Bakue down here? No, that didn't seem right. There was no way a normal girl like me could be a scientist. A weird smile appeared on my face as I started to think about different ideas. Each time the lid almost came off my memories, I started to feel terrible, and I smiled to take my mind off of it. Don't go down there. You can't go down there. I could feel someone whispering that deep within my heart, but my legs wouldn't go back. What if the old me was a totally different person? What if knowing about her changed me? Even if it did, I still wanted to know about the real me. And then I finally reached the bottom of the stairs. Oh. Row after row of TV monitors filled the space. I knew this sight. I'd seen it in the visions. Were the visions of this room? Miyashiro looked angry at me for not listening to his warning, but he didn't say anything. Well? Shut up. You're distracting me. Kunosato sat down in front of the computer and began typing at an incredible speed. She seemed to be doing a detailed check of the data on it. Okay, we can do this. We've got the data we need. Really? Kunosato actually smiled for once. Let's hurry and get started. Right. Shinjo, you go upstairs and watch. If something happens, let me know immediately. Right. Make sure you get a backup of that data. Who do you think you're talking to? Shinjo smiled back and ran up the stairs. Yeah. What if the old me was an incel or an identity thief? Or worst of all, what if the old me had a crush on a loser like Miyashiro? Miyashiro, get inside. Once you sit down in the device, do the injections immediately. Right. You know how to handle the injections okay now, right?
Yes, you got mad at me enough times at the hospital.
Because no matter how many times I taught it, you never learned.
Miyashiro ran into the next room, looking a little excited.
Did you find something?
Kunosato had started typing again.
Yeah, just what we thought. The device and the data we need. We may be able to use this to cure Chaos Child Syndrome.
Her voice lifted slightly. I'd never seen her so happy.
Then you can cure Kurisu and the others? Probably.
I couldn't help but sigh in relief.
How are you going to cure them? What do you mean by data? An image.
Huh?
An image? You mean like a picture or something?
You could cure the disease with a picture? That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, so far we've mostly found Wakui's porn stash.
But from the way Kunosato was acting, it must be.
What's the cause of Chaos Child Syndrome anyway? And why are Kurisu and the others the only ones in a coma?
That was something I'd been wondering for a while. The town was filled with Chaos Child Syndrome patients wandering around. Kunosato stopped typing and hesitated for a moment. Then she looked at me and whispered,
I guess it's alright. You've seen patients besides Kurisu and the others, right?
I nodded. I'd just seen some at the crossing, and I'd seen a whole class of them here at Hekiho.
How did they feel to you?
What do you mean? They were probably actually middle school age. It seemed like they had no idea that anything was wrong. The ones in the classroom had looked straight at me.
It was like, they were having a dream that showed them just what they wanted to see. Huh. You got right to the heart of it.
Kunosato smiled, a teacher whose student just got a good grade and went back to typing at the keyboard. She seemed to find the data she was looking for because she nodded in satisfaction.
Are you aware of Wittgenstein's opposition to Kant's left-hand, right-hand thought experiment?
From the names, maybe they were important scientists or something? I doubted any high school girl had actually heard of them.
Take two matches with the top and bottom reversed, spin them and overlap them, and they're still the same thing, but a one-dimensional being won't be able to tell. Take two right triangles back to back and pile them on top of each other, and they're still the same thing, but a two-dimensional being won't be able to tell. In both cases, a person from those dimensions can't recognize what happened. They're incapable of understanding that actions and concepts of rotate and pile up even exist. Huh.
I didn't get what she was saying at all.
Each of these creatures in a different dimension has its own world that only it can understand. They're in what you described as a dream, a delusion. Scientists call this phenomenon delusion synchro. Remember what Miyashiro said? Chaos Child Syndrome patients have delusions that alter their sight, their hearing, and even their sense of touch. So in other words, the students at this academy are all having the exact same ultra-realistic dream?
Is that really possible? Kunosato seemed to sense my disbelief. Her expression was completely serious.
Yes, more precisely, their brain waves are causing them to all share the same delusion. That's why we call it delusion synchro. That's how the entrance to this basement was sealed. We were forced to share in the delusion that there was a wall here, so we could neither find it nor come inside. But you showed us that there was no actual wall. The delusion was broken for us, and the wall ceased to fulfill its function. I see.
I didn't understand still, but I decided to pretend that I did.
And in the same way, someone appeared who was capable of escaping from the delusion shared by all the Chaos Child Syndrome patients and destroying it. That person was Miyashiro? Correct. He recovered from the syndrome, and in doing so, the cycle of delusions that was shared by all of Shibuya collapsed. Some of the patients ceased to be able to synchronize their delusions with the others. To continue the example, imagine this whole school as mimes, pretending to be trapped in an invisible box, and Miyashiro walked right through the invisible walls of the box and shattered them. Or maybe you can think of them all as people in a movie, and Miyashiro screamed cut.
I remembered my hand going through the wall. It was like a bad dream, or a bad joke.
Thanks to Miyashiro, Kurisu and the others were released from their delusions, but they weren't able to handle the gap between delusion and reality and went into a coma. In fact, everyone in a coma was someone who was close to Miyashiro.
I remembered
the people in the hospital room. There was Kurisu, and then Arimura, Kazuki, and Yamazoe, right? Of course, the coma itself is dangerous, but it's evidence that their brain is trapped between reality and delusion, and fighting to escape the syndrome. It's a necessary process. So we want to strip that same delusion from the others as well.
Is Yamazoe's then technically a dream within a dream? Kunosato grinned wickedly.
If we do, someday they'll come back to reality, just like Miyashiro did. Miyashiro, did you inject the meds I gave you? Yes.
Kunosato started talking into some kind of microphone, and I could hear Miyashiro's voice from the speaker next to it.
I'm going to start taking your brainwave data. Got it? Yes, thank you.
He sounded kind of out of it. What was he doing in the next room?
How did Miyashiro recover from the syndrome? I'm not sure. If you want to know, ask him. Oh, I guess that's the perfect topic for discussion. Can you go to his side and talk to him? I gave him a tranquilizer to make it easier to get the data, but I can't have him falling asleep. If Shinjo was here, I'd ask him, but now you're all I've got. The drug will run out soon. It won't take long.
Kunosato saw my hesitation and motion for me to get going. I had no choice but to head into the next room.
Sorry.
I heard her speak, but I didn't answer. I could tell that she wasn't talking to me.
Oh.
The second I came inside, I was sure. This was the room. There was no doubt about it. This was where I would talk to Wakui in the visions. It was a cold, white room. A hospital room? Or maybe an operating room. There was a device in the middle of the room, like something you'd see in a science fiction movie. Miyashiro was lying back on a seat in the middle of the device. It looked like something out of a spaceship cockpit. He wasn't asleep, but the drugs made him look really tired. What?
Nothing.
I told him I'd come to keep him from falling asleep, and pulled up a chair and sat down.
What's that machine? What does it do?
Kunosato didn't tell you?
I didn't really understand what she said.
All I got was that she was going to take Miyashiro's brainwaves and that she'd use them to do something about Chaos Child Syndrome. Well, she can be hard to understand. She either uses wrong-siders for her own purposes or just leaves them behind. I'm only a wrong-sider because I can't remember, and you guys won't tell me the things that are important. Miyashiro looked at me in surprise. Huh. You know the word wrong-sider, huh? Don't make fun of me. Well, I'd only just learned it a bit ago. Suddenly, machines started to give off a low moan, and I almost jumped. Oh, don't worry. That's the sound of the brain scan starting. Miyashiro looked up at the ring spinning around his head as he talked. It's going to take my brainwaves and use them to create an image.
Kunosato said that too. What does that mean?
I couldn't have him falling asleep, so I prodded him for an answer. The difference between me and the other patients lies in my brainwaves patterns, and that's why I was able to come back. There's a special image that makes Chaos Child Syndrome patients sick when they see it. It seems like we're exceptionally sensitive to visual information. Well, even a normal person relies on vision for over 80% of the information they gather. That gave Konosato and I the hint we needed. All we had to do was create an image that would cause the others to have the same brainwave pattern as I do. We could use that image to alter all their brainwaves and pull them back to reality. His voice was getting softer. I needed to keep him talking about something. Didn't matter what.
Can you really do that? What kind of image is it?
We can. We've got the data and the software together. That's why we've been searching. I think each person will see it differently, but it will be a symmetrical image. What it turns out to be, we'll have to wait and find out, I guess.
If you've got these, special brainwaves, then how did you get the syndrome in the first place? It doesn't make sense.
At first, I didn't. It was only after I got the syndrome.
But why?
Well, all the Chaos Child Syndrome patients saw something nightmarish during the Shibuya earthquake, and they didn't believe what they saw. They refused to believe it was real. They thought that it couldn't actually be happening to them. And then there was the white light.
White light?
Those people who were undergoing exceptionally strong stress and shock became psychics.
Escaping into their delusions wasn't enough for them. They tried to alter reality itself to escape the pain, and that's how they got their powers. Powers? Wait, what was he talking about? And I was the biggest coward of them all. Reality was just so painful that I took the girl who was always by my side and. Huh? Huh? Suddenly, Miyashiro leapt up from his seat. He had a terrible look on his face. What's wrong? He seemed to be astonished at what he'd almost said. I'm sorry, it's nothing. He whispered and sank back down into his seat. Don't scare me like that. I'm sorry. Just like Konosato had said, the medicine was already starting to wear off. I picked up the chair that I'd knocked over and sat down, this time a little further away. He didn't seem dangerous, but just in case. Anne? Huh? Keep going. Who was always by your side? I could feel a sudden tension emanating from him as he stared at the ceiling. He pressed his lips together in thought. There was a silence for a while, one that threatened to burst if I pressed him for an answer. But then I heard him speak, softly. My best friend. He was still staring at the ceiling. You had a best friend, huh? Even though you committed all those awful murders? Yeah. In the end, she was the one who taught me that a fake reality was always doomed to fall apart someday. But that's why I was able to escape from the delusions surrounding me. I don't think the other patients have a friend who can help them realize that. Wait a second, I thought. What gave him the right to say that? The people you killed probably had close friends too. I almost said that, but for some reason I stopped. Miyashiro's face, his eyes, they looked so sad. Miyashiro, I got the data extracted. I still have to finish copying it out, but I think it worked. Really? The tranquilizer should be wearing off. You're good to stand up. Okay. Miyashiro stood up from the seat. There was a smile on his face. Wait. I called out to him as he went to leave the room. There was something else I desperately needed to know. Was your best friend another Chaos child? What are they doing now? Miyashiro slowly turned to look at me. No, she was a normal person. She's dead now. She's gone. This is it? I waited about a half hour before Kunosato pulled an image up on the screen. Just like Miyashiro said, it was symmetrical. Different people might see it differently, but I couldn't imagine anybody would describe it as anything but elaborate scribbles. Is this really enough to cure the disease? We'll have to find out. The problem is how we do it. Yeah, there's still a group of people trying to continue the research like Sakuma did. If we try to spread the image, they'll probably get in our way. We need to find a way to get it past their interference and spread the image to as many people as possible at the same time. But we'll need to camouflage it. Kunosato sank back into her chair, and yeah, no, my best friend was my child, and she doesn't remember anything. She started to type again at an unbelievable speed. Show it to them at the same time? You mean the patients? Yeah, Miyashiro nodded. Of course, we can't show it to them all, but we need to get it to as many people as possible. Why? Otherwise, the delusion synchro they share with the others might draw them back in. They might stay in the delusion that they're the same as other people. I remembered my conversation with Konosato. I'd said that they were having a dream that showed them what they wanted to see. It's a bit of a rush job, but this will do. I could see a strange image that looked like white noise on the screen. Huh? I kept staring at it, but I couldn't see the image from before. What's this? Miyashiro seemed to be as confused as I was. Kunosato took something out of her pocket and pointed it at the monitor. It made a cute noise. A digital camera? I guess that's good enough. It's usable. She checked the LCD screen on the back and preferred it to me. She looked slightly dissatisfied. The screen showed, huh? The LCD screen on the camera showed a slightly distorted version of the same image I'd seen before. How? It was just a picture of white noise. I see. The shutter speed. That's right. I mixed the image into the noise for only a few frames. If you set the shutter speed to 1 second, this is how it looks. Even if the eye can't see it, their minds will still process it. It might work better than I thought, honestly. That's right. Even if someone misses the video, we can mix it in with another. Kunosato, you can do video editing too, can't you? What kind of page do you think I've run? That's right, Miyashiro smiled. The video? His confession. Huh? His confession? We'll announce the time and upload some evidence to make it look like it's real, and then broadcast the confession online. And we'll mix this noise in before, during, and after the broadcast. Everyone at Hekiho is sure to watch it. The same with anybody at another facility or whose guardians are keeping them at home. Kunosato looked at him mischievously. It's a new message from the famous criminal. The vast majority will watch. That's right. Miyashiro smiled back. Oh, so that was it. I finally realized. Is that what you're after? Huh? You're helping Kunosato to get your new man. You're helping Kunosato to get your new message out into the world. People think that you're suffering in jail after the police arrested you, but you're walking around outside without a care in the world. You want to let everyone know that you're not suffering like they think you are. Am I wrong? He was a horrible killer. I had to be right. I put as much rudeness and sarcasm as I could muster in my words. Miyashiro laughed tiredly. Even I'm not that much of a dick. No, that's not true. The old you might have done that. I don't want to hear that from you, Kunosato. And anyway. But just before he could finish the sentence. Hey, didn't anyone ever tell you not to steal? All right, I think we're going to end here for tonight. Because I think things are about to go very sideways. You know what? We'll keep that no chapter. All right. So next stream is Tuesday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Just an announcement. Thursday is going to be the last stream for a bit. I'll be traveling, so I'm not going to have access to my stream equipment. But that is my only announcement. So, see you guys on Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed, and bye. Have a good night.